Okay, we're back. I have new glow plugs from Butler Automart, HKT PM75s. I feel like I'm having a terrible time getting this thing to focus. Never mind. So we've got cylinder 1, cylinder 3 replacements. As it happens, I've done a multimeter ohms test, and new plugs give a resistance of 0.4. So based on that, these two are in pretty good condition. I haven't put voltage through the old ones. I don't see why they'll have any problems. These two here were the real problem, so I've replaced those. The only notable differences, try and get you to focus here as best we can. This one is, the new plugs are a round tip. The old plugs are square, and further to that, the new plugs are actually probably 3mm longer than the old plugs. Because of that, I'm going to have to fit them, turn it over by hand, make sure there's no contact before we actually crank it over. The guys at Butler Automart tried everything. They went through all the part numbers, 6V, 12V, and all of them that they were able to access were the same length as this new one. So unsure why the old style here is slightly shorter. Hopefully it doesn't mean we have contact, but we will find out. Right, so it's a wee bit windy. Hopefully that doesn't affect the sound quality at all. I've just applied some copper never sees to the threads there. I am going to put them back in the correct order. It doesn't make any difference for glow plugs, but I just like to keep things the way they were. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I've done a little bit of research on Google and decided 14 foot-pounds, which is around about 20 Newton meters, seems to be the right amount to tighten the glow plug. Feels about right. This is a relatively long bar, and that's just tight and a little bit more, but not too much. Alright, so plugs are all in and torqued. I've given the glow rail a good clean up. Get rid of all that carbon and greasy, oily buildup. So we'll put that back on in a minute and we'll carry on from there. Before I go crazy tightening down this rail, since the new glow plugs are slightly longer than the old ones, I'm just going to go and rotate the engine over by hand. Fortunately for me, my fan shroud is actually broken just enough to get a ratchet in and turn that engine over. So I'm going to turn it over until I feel 4 compressions, and hopefully there's no drama there. Okay, I've turned the engine over by hand, and I'm happy that there's no contact happening with the new plugs. I'm not entirely sure if that's even possible, to be honest. Maybe someone can enlighten me on that, but better safe than sorry, so we've turned it over by hand a few times. I'll put these nuts back on, tighten it up, and put the power lead back on. Alright, so glow plugs are in, the rail is back on and tight. These little nuts here, I've only tightened them until they pinch, plus a small bit more. I didn't want to over tighten this because this is very soft steel, so I don't want to damage it. Alright, and just one more thing before we try start it. I'm just going to test the continuity of the rail itself. I've only just laid that lead on the end there, and I'll touch this one at this end, and there you have a very, very good connection. So with that said, it's time to try start it up. Right, so I'm ready to start. I haven't put the intercooler back on. I'm not too concerned about that at this stage. I just want to make sure that everything's connected properly. Couple of other things to note: the batteries are both fully charged. They're sitting over 13 volts, so that will make a big difference to the cranking speed that we can get from it. Another thing to note would be that the ambient temperature is sitting about 10 degrees as opposed to my last video where it was only about 3 degrees. So this is not a very fair comparison to my last video, but regardless, we should notice a big difference in the starting procedure, how quickly it kicks in. So we'll just chuck it in now and have a go. It's on a manual heat start. I'll just give it 3-4 seconds. That should be enough. There you go. I didn't even give it any extra throttle. Clean. So I'll probably do a follow-up video on the next frosty morning we get, but I would say that's made a huge difference. I will refit the intercooler, clean up, put all the tools away. Happy days.